Hello, beautiful family. We're starting with a laugh from Mr. Michael Cooper. Welcome to episode number 36. We are bringing the high vibes today. We have just done a beautiful breath work. My gosh, we need to bring a little breath work to the beginning of each podcast, I believe, for these beautiful people. Mike, thank you, man. That was amazing as always. Today we're talking about herd mentality, bringing this more limitless potential to our souls and the possibilities of what we can achieve in this lifetime, and how easy it is to be thrown off path, how easy it is to be thrown on path. And I have just had an incredible week in a experience with an incredible team of 200 to 300 extremely high vibrational mentors, mentoring myself and about 200 other people that came to learn. And it absolutely blew me away. And I've just learned so much. I'm going to share some of those downloads today. And Mr. Michael Cooper in the house, so looking forward to hearing your thoughts around all of these things and making a difference, assisting people in possibly choosing to make a big difference in their life today, tomorrow, and forever on. So, how you feeling today, brother?
I actually feel really good after that breath work. Yes.
Mm.
Yeah, that was, oh, sorry, I was projecting then, but when I do, sometimes I don't want to come back.
Yeah.
Like it's such a beautiful state, and you forget, well, sorry, I forget to come back. Like sometimes
Mm.
it's, oh, hang on, I was actually doing something. I remember I start my every client call in that fashion, the same
Yeah.
way we did it. Maybe there's a bit of guidance or guided meditation dovetailed into the breath work as well. But I remember one time um, I forgot where I was,
Mm.
and I was so deep in the moment of the breath work and the final breath. When I came back out, I just hung up the call because I didn't know whether the screen had frozen, how long it had been frozen for. I was completely disconnected and but plugged into myself,
Yeah.
and that often happens. And I find it quite a funny experience when I have to come back to reality. And it maybe took us 2 minutes to drop in so deeply. I've dropped in with hape or other plant medicine, and it was a little similar to
Mm.
that.
I think it's somewhat ironic, the signs to look out for an exceptional practitioner, a practitioner who gets so lost in the practicing, so consumed 110% in the practicing that they forget that they're the practitioner. Love it.
Yeah,
Love it.
yeah, yeah.
Ah, beautiful, brother. So today, really feeling to share some of the learnings and I guess remembrance of some of the things that I've learned on my journey, and how potent it is for me to be exposed to certain kinds of people. And it's a
Mm,
priority and it's a non-negotiable, and it's easy to forget. And I guess our podcast was birthed for each other somewhat from exactly that, that experience of this is our accountability to spend this time together each week to do what we do, and spend and be inspired by each other's magic, and therefore inspired by our own magic. And I guess going really deep on psychology and things this week, one of the things specifically that's come up is this herd mentality. And they sort of said, especially in Australia, but really, especially worldwide, more than ever, there's a lot of like supporting the underdogs kind of thing, like supporting the guys that are trying to make it, and everyone coming together to really uh, bring what they can to inspire those people and support those people. But often when the people become really successful, it can really flip around pretty quickly, of people trying to bring them down and being like, what are you doing? Or trying to bring the negativity and the judgments to bring that success of that abundant, successful person down. And we were speaking into this thing of herd mentality and us being mammals, and the principle of our mammal, core driving forces, and how, let's just use, say, like, horses as an example, and Mike, feel free to interject here, mate, at any point. I feel like I'm into it, and I'd love to hear your wisdom around it at any point. That horses, that thing when the horse is playing up. Let's say there's a herd of horses, and there's one horse that wants to be like a unicorn. Let's say, right? And he's like playing around, and the other horse, one of the other horses starts sort of going, trying to give him the word to this like horse being wants to be a unicorn. Uh, it's usually not the alpha as well. It's usually some of the herd, right? The alpha's not involved yet. It's the herd, and they start doing that. And then the unicorn keeps doing its thing, showing off its colors, wanting to jump around and dance and play and do its unicorn thing, right? And then again that, and then if that doesn't work, they start up leveling, and then it's bumping into that unicorn, and it's trying to give that signal, to be part of the herd and to stop being stupid, stop doing what everyone else isn't doing. And then eventually, there might be bites from the other horses. They kind of, when the noises aren't working and the bumping's not working, then it starts to up level. They start to bite, and they start to prod, and they start to poke. And eventually, once all else breaks out, they start kicking and really giving it some, And at the end of that, eventually they get kicked out of the herd. If they keep choosing to be a unicorn, they tell them to go home, or go somewhere else, leave the herd, kick them out. And all those little warning signs along the way is, leaning up to that. And eventually it's, the alpha comes in, and he's the one that kicks them out of that herd. And seeing how that relates to life, I guess that core fear of abandonment at our core of being left behind. And back in the day of, thinking back to things like herds of horses in the wild, or the caveman and the tribe, that if that kicked out of the tribe, that generally meant certain death, in some sense, that you were left to fend for yourself, and your survival rate was much lower because of that. Relating that to 2025 and all the things that are so different now, one of the trainings that we were given right at the end of this 3-day intensive was, guys, as soon as you walk out that door, as soon as you leave this space, there's going to be everyone trying to call you back into the herd. They're going to start bumping you. They're going to do they're going to be biting you. They're going to be poking you. And along that journey, we were we were brought back into that herd mentality and brought out of it so many times, and just to bring that conscious awareness back to it of the things I know that we already know. But for me now, it hit me like never before how I need to be around a tribe like that more often. And that's a non-negotiable. And I'd forgotten a bit about that. And conversations with people like yourself and a handful of other people in my life every week bring that level and that accountability. And now I'm, so committed to not forgetting that this time, and putting things in place in my life, because my ebooks and my workouts and all the things I do every morning that really set the tone for my day, I want more. And the mission that I feel that I'm here to step into right now is higher than I've ever been before, exposing myself to people that have the tools and have the capacity, have the connections, have more than all of that, have that respectfulness, kindness, passion, and accountability to bring it, and to bring it for themselves, and are excited to bring that with me and be that team and be that tribe. So, how do you feel about all that, Mr. Michael Cooper?
There's a lot there, mate. There's a lot there. Thank you, mate. Thank you for that. And, just wanted to speak into the level of excitement and passion I can hear for this topic, how much it's really not just sparked but lit a fire or an inferno, probably at this point.
Yeah.
And by being around people of resonance. And so, what that shows us is that when we get around resonance, our internal fire, our soul's fire, our heart's desire gets lit up, it gets inspired, inspiration, breathing life into your soul's purpose. And you said earlier, we get sometimes we get bumped off track and sometimes we get nudged back on track. Well, technically, we're always on track, and our soul's just nudging us. We have free will, and we might veer off over here, but the soul will guide us back, usually through adversity.
Mm.
But when there's a couple of expressions that came to mind that people would be familiar with that when you were speaking came through as like, if you want to soar with the eagles, don't flock around with turkeys.
Mm.
And birds of a feather flock together. Or, on a more negative sense, if you walk with a cripple long enough, you'll develop a limb.
Mm.
All it is a saying by association. And I think it was Tony Robbins who said, you're the sum of five people that you surround yourself with.
Yeah.
You could look at it from energetics, you could look at it from financial. I mean, do the quick maths. Add up the five people you spend, not that you like the most, the five people you spend the most time with, because time is a value, and I'm choosing to put my energy or my time or my resources into that person. So I'm choosing, I might like Jay more than anyone in the world, but I spend time with people who are doing low vibe things, having low vibe conversations. They're talking about people as opposed to ideas and concepts.
Mm.
They're gossiping. And that will be the sum of my experience in life because that's where
Totally.
I'm in choosing to invest my time.
Yeah.
And then we get in a room of these 200 and 300 people that you were in that were looking forward, talking big ideas, big concepts, future creations and inspirations or inventions that they've made. You're sitting there with your mouth mildly open, agape in awe and wonder, and then going, wow, what am I doing with my life? This kid is 16-year-old and he's raised $1 million for homeless people.
Mm.
Like, and you look at yourself and like, I can do more. So it gives you the permission.
Yeah.
People will receive it two ways. If you're a growth oriented person, you'll see that as inspiration, not a detractor of, oh, I may as well just give up.
Mm.
But someone who isn't growth focused, they could actually take that as a reflection of like, I feel really bad about myself now
Yeah.
because this kid's reflected a part of me that I haven't owned.
Yeah.
And then they get into guilt and shame and they get out of the race altogether.
Yeah.
You can see where your blueprint and your mindset's at was like, you got around these 200-300 people and you've come back like a completely shifted, like you had a transformative experience.
Mm.
Yes, it was an experience, but you've already put things into action, which tells me it's transformative.
Yeah.
If you went to the event and we did the change your state, say yes, say yes. I love
Mm.
Tony, but you know, there's also time for humor.
Yeah.
um, that's an experience, and we have the Tony effect, where you had this 5-day conference. There was thousands of people. You were all punching yes, but you didn't actually make any change.
Mm.
And we get this inertia of enthusiasm from people that we're surrounded with because we're all singing the same song, dancing the same tune, punching the air together, like people, like people. I feel like a tribe. 4 days later, I've done nothing. I feel depressed. I've got
Yeah.
no energy.
Yeah.
I'm completely depleted. 4 days later for you, you've got a fire burning. You're completely reinvigorated
Mm.
because you were around people who didn't actually just give you a feel good experience. They called you into a higher level of being.
Yeah.
That's what we call life force.
Yeah.
And so we have this in intimate relationships. We have life force exchange. Your partner could be drawing your life force, or they could be refueling or nourishing your life force.
Yeah.
Which one is it? And then at that point, you have to say, if I'm systemically losing life force to this beautiful human that I'm relating with,
Yeah.
is this my soul's purpose? Is this what it's meant to be? No,
Yeah.
it's not meant to be. It's a codependent relationship that's dragging the life force out of you. And I promise you, when they've dragged all the life force out of you, you'll become very boring because there's no longer anything to take and they'll discard you.
Yeah.
And so you have to really look at that and go, is this a nourishing relationship? So we've all got energy exchange. And on the weekend that you got to experience, it was, I'm sure you poured into just as many people as they poured into you. It was
Yes.
equally yoked. Yeah.
100%, 100%. And yeah, I love so much of what you just shared, brother. Thank you. The that the Tony effect. I love that. I've never actually heard that before, and I'm a
Yeah.
massive Tony Robbins fan, and always try and spend at least 3 days in do at least one 3 day thing with him every year. I just did one about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I think a couple of beautiful like personal realizations that have helped me more this time is that constant study and evolution over the last, I guess, many years. I guess, like, I don't know, for me, I think my journey, as I've shared before, when I started sort of really diving into spirituality, is coming up 10 years now, and so I'm still just a baby.
Mm.
But what that really led me to dive into was studying a lot of business and mindset and coaching, and then things that led me into things like, I guess, marketing and having the most amount of impact to share my craft, with the deep purpose and passion being to inspire the gift of music and the gift of playing a musical instrument as a life-changing experience that leads to all the other amazing things like confidence and independence and happiness and friendships and freedom and safety, that it's something you've always got to come back to when everything else hits the fan. You've always got music, and a lot of people relate to that, and I really relate to that. Obviously, it's been my life. It's always been there for me. So there's that beautiful purpose, and what's been different things, experiencing things like the Tony Robbins this year, and what I've just come out of is all the things that I've consciously put in place in the last 3 years. This experience that I did this experience 2 years ago, or had this experience 2 years ago, exposed to this crew and this team, and it hit me so hard, and I felt exactly like I do now, except I didn't have the things in place to act upon the experience. So I went back to the drawing board, and that's been me chipping away every day and night for the last 2 or 3 years to go back this time. So excited, and to everything that they're like checking off along the way. I'm like, wow, I've done that now. I'm ready to go. I've done that. I've got that. I'm ready to go.
Wow.
And to now come straight out of that to, like you said, a lot of the time coming out after 3 or 4 days, people will go back to the old ways and the grind, and you forget or whatever. Whereas what I've done this time is I've put so many things in motion of accountability, meetings, new interactions, financial commitments, time commitments, and drive, that now the next 3 6 months ahead, and is leading to being way more involved with that, way more accountability, way more things happening, to then get to that point in 3 or 6 months time when I can lay down a whole lot of energy, which I'm talking specifically about money, to get way more involved with these elite humans, with the regular experience. And I don't want to say the word seminars, because I feel like people kind of frown down on that, but it is somewhat of a seminar. Let's call it mastermind, right? To have that experience, because the way I see it, that's priceless. And that thing of always the best investment is you. I've never felt that like before, and I'm literally thinking about selling property, to get the money to do it, because I feel like I've never been so sure of anything in my life. That investment is me, and that's what I've been doing my whole life. But to level up now that I've built that structure to hold it, and the other last thing I'll say on this is structure, like the thing that comes out of this for say the Tony effect, and what those guys now know to provide, Tony Robbins, etc. That they're really doing their best to, when you leave on that final day, to get you to commit to plugging into a structure that will support you. And they've put so much energy and time into building those structures. And I love those guys because they're so heart-based and heart-centered, because they don't care about money. They've got all the money in the world. They're not doing it to
Yeah.
make more money. They're doing it to help you.
Yeah. Yeah.
That, yeah.
I think you're right. It's that structure. Doesn't matter what event. Like even if it's a 4 day retreat where there was 5 people there, it's irrelevant of everything requires integration and everything requires implementation.
Yes.
because knowledge exists outside of us, like it's an external thing where wisdom is the embodiment of said knowledge. So until you can embody it or act on it or utilize it, or at least play with it to try and get better at new knowledge, said new knowledge, it's a left brain intellectual exercise that will leave you. It's when you have it as a part of your daily practice, a part of your, doesn't matter what you're doing, whether it was fitness, money, banking, relationships, any of it, until you are the walking epitome of it, it's not yours. And that requires help.
Yep.
Like it requires, you've got accountability, you've got a partner, you've got everyone saying, "Hey mate, how you doing with that? When did
Yeah.
you say, you said you're going to do it by Friday? Where are the results?"
Yeah.
So accountability is huge, and for all of us, like I've lifted since I was 14, um, and I know how to write programs, I know how to do nutrition, I know how to do all the things. Yet I still have a coach.
Yeah.
Why? Because I still track my food every day. I still track because I want that level of accountability
Mm.
so that when things aren't working, I can find where it's fallen over. Is it in my nutrition? Is it in my training?
Yeah.
I haven't progressed for weeks. Of course, I'm not changing.
Yeah.
Um, and it's that accountability to show up. Does he ring me? No. Does he call me? No. I've just got an app that I know he might look at one day, and I am impeccable with my word. That's one of my values. So
Yeah.
if I say I'm going to do this program, I'll do it.
Yeah. I love that. Repetition, I believe, is a big thing there too. I was studying, one of the things we did this week was studying how the human brain uh, retains memory and an experience, memories from an experience. The statistics on a human brain, I think it's within 18 minutes of absorbing information, your body has lost 60% of what you've been given. So 18
Wow.
minutes from the learning, 60% is gone. And then 24 hours
Wow.
later, I think it's another 20%. So if you
Wow.
revise within 24 hours of that original information experience, you can bring it up to, I think it was about 50 or 6, I think it was 60% after 24 hours. If you revise on the entire experience, you can bring it up to 60% within 24 hours. So that's big. That's big. There's
That's
40% difference.
really interesting you share that. So I've done something as a just by stroke of genius, luck, chance. Every time I learn something, I will bring it into the next conversation I have.
Yep.
So, if I read a book 10 minutes before our catch up or we just, you called me out of the blue, I would find a way to weave that teaching into, so I've had to decipher it, transmute it into a way that I understand it and teach you in the same moment and
Yep.
putting myself under pressure of performing in public
Yep.
and getting it wrong or, collecting my thoughts along the way. And that's how I learned. I have learned everything. So I'll read a book in the morning and I'll either literally the next person cops it
Yep.
or voice, if no one's calling, I'll voice message it to someone. I'll be like, oh my God, I just learned this. And I talk about it. And I find by me having to do this mental gymnastics of deciphering it and then communicating it at the same time
Yep.
has really scaled up my level of retention and understanding of it. Because as I speak it into existence, I do get a better understanding of it,
Yep.
even though I'm teaching myself.
It is nuts. All right, I'm going to just speak into those statistics one more time because I got it wrong. I took a photo of the chart. So after 18 minutes, you've lost 55% of the repetition, of the experience. If you refresh that later on that day, the next day, you will you basically get back to to 100% when you when
Wow.
you refresh it because you're reading it, experience it again. The next day you can get up to retaining 70% of the information. If you
Yeah.
don't refresh it after that initial exposure, again you've forgotten 55% after 18 minutes. Within 24 hours you're down to about 43%. Like I said, if you refresh after the first experience, so within 24 hours, on the second day you'll be up to about 70%. Yeah, it's crazy, and you can keep going up. If you refresh every 24 hours, after 7 days, you can get up to about 75% of the knowledge. After 31 days, refreshing again, you can get up to 90%, and then so forth. After what's the last one? 3 months, you can get it again at around about 90% with refreshing. But otherwise, if you just that initial information, after 90 days, you're down to about 20% if you're lucky.
Wow,
Yeah,
that's crazy.
isn't it?
Which brings it back to I think it might have been Bruce Lee that said this quote was, "I'm not afraid of the man who practices 1,000 kicks once.
Yeah,
I'm afraid of the man who practices one kick 1,000 times."
yeah.
Wow.
Wow, big time. Brother, we're going to have to leave it there for today. I've got a beautiful student about to jump on, so I'm going to do that and wishing you an incredible day ahead, my friend.
Big love, bro. Thank you,
Big
mate.
love.